Welcome to Violent Vinyl Radio, where we break down the best hair metal albums from the 80s and the 90s. So grab that volume knob, crank it up, and enjoy the show.
Showtime. Welcome to Violent Vinyl Radio. I'm your host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First up, the podcaster holding all the aces, Dangerous Dave.
Hello, hello.
And last but not least, the podcaster who likes the dark side of the beat, Lisa.
Kid tested, parent approved.
Sweet. As always, the mission of this show is for us to introduce each other and you, the listeners, to albums and bands which you may never have heard before, while also discussing the classics. So sit back and enjoy the show. Dave, where can the listeners find this fine program?
We are available on most podcast outlets, Apple, Spotify, and also check us out on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and share. Put a rating up on Apple Podcasts. It helps out the show. We are on Instagram at VVR Podcast Insta, INSTA. And we are on Facebook at Violent Vinyl Podcast.
Awesome. Guys, if you know someone who likes, hair metal or rock and roll, or someone that likes the 80s or the 90s, or you grew up in the 80s and the 90s, share the show with them. Help us grow this thing. It's a good show. We put in a lot of work. And honestly, I think we could be doing a little better than we are. The only way we're going to get there is with your help. So, spread the disease. Okay. Tonight, we will be discussing Blow My Fuse, the fourth studio album by Kix, produced by Tom Werman. We hear that name a lot on this show. Dwayne Barron, John Purdall, released on September 19th of 1988 on Atlantic Records. The album peaked at the number 46 spot on the U.S. Billboard 200. So everybody, bear with me. I have been deathly ill for weeks. I'm gassed up heavily on all sorts of medication, Mucinexes and Dayquils and Theraflus and Vicks and you name it, and I'm on it. And I'm going to do drugs right now on the show. I am unwrapping my little edible, and I will eat that, and that will be the heroin portion. And then I will chase it with this strong coffee, which we will substitute as the cocaine. So there you go. Okay.
All right.
Old man speedball.
I was going to say a speedball, but like for
wasn't my
old
thing of the day.
people.
Never actually enjoyed a speedball, but I imagine it was probably glorious. Not condoning it. Okay. So the band's lineup was as follows: Steve Whiteman on lead vocals and harmonica. Ronnie 10x10 Yonkins on guitars. Brian Damage Forsythe with the nasty hair, also on guitars. I love this guy's hair back in the day, right?
Oh, yeah, he had good hair.
Oh, best hair. So thick, so black, so good. And it was like the other guy looks like he just got out of a fire. Fire or something. His hair was so torched. It was horrible. I'm hoping there wasn't something really wrong with him, because I feel bad now. Like he was suffering from some degenerative hair disease.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. If it is, he had it.
It was in the 80s.
Holy shit. And Donnie Purnell on bass, keyboards, piano, and backing vocals. And Jimmy Chocolate Chalfant. Too many fucking nicknames in this band. I'm sorry. They're not good ones. Donnie, sorry. And he played the drums and also sang backing vocals. So there you go. We're off to a swimming start. Let's do some band facts. I got a fact. Guitar player had good hair. The guitar player didn't. Lisa, what do you got?
I think we'll start with Dave.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I think I would have that down by now. Dave, what do you got?
Yes. Kix, the band, not the cereal, was formed in 1976.
When was the cereal formed?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, you
Way
brought it
before
up.
that. Well, I brought it up in the intro. That was the kid tested, parent approved. That's not what you remember from back in the day.
That's the new PC
The new
tagline.
Yes.
It
I
used
remember.
to be mother approved.
used to be mother approved, and in 2018 they changed their tagline to kid tested, parent approved.
I remember when you did that. I unprofessionally bulldozed right over it. Okay. Sorry. Dave, go ahead.
So the band was formed in 1976. They were formerly known as Shoes, Shooze, and then the Generators. They were signed to Atlantic Records in 1981. Before being signed, they spent time playing as a cover band. I have a bootleg from 1979 that's over 2 hours long, where they play AC/DC and the Rolling Stones, and even My Sharona by the Knack.
Nice.
They were based out of Maryland, but never sold out to move to Hollywood. They played constantly, especially up and down the East Coast of the USA, right up until their retirement. Speaking of the cereal, rumor has it they did name the band after the breakfast cereal made by General Mills. A song from their first album, Kix Are for Kids, creatively merged the name of the band with two popular cereals of the 60s and 70s, Kix, that featured an atomic bomb commercial, and the Trix Rabbit, whose tagline, Silly Rabbit, Tricks Are for Kids.
Oh, God. All that cereal talk, kind of gay. I don't like it. I don't know if I would have let that come out if I was like, yeah, I made my band after Captain Crunch.
They could have come up with a better backstory for that name.
Oh, boy. I agree. I'm hot. Did it get hot in here all of a sudden? I'm like stripping off my sweatshirt like a maniac. Sorry.
All right, next up, Kix has had 3 albums out before this, which contain classic songs such as Yeah, 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 Cool Kids, and Midnight Dynamite.
You're calling those classic songs.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
All right.
They sure are.
Okay.
I remembered all this way cooler, way better, way sleazier. Keep going.
In 1989, the band released Blow My Fuse, the videos, featuring their official video releases and behind-the-scenes footage. I watched that today. It was pretty good.
Cool.
The album was recorded in Conway Studios and Cherokee Studios, Hollywood, California, and certified platinum by the RIAA in the year 2000. In 2018, the band released Fuse 30 Reblown, a remixed and remastered 30th anniversary edition of the album, including all the album demos on a second disc. I didn't even know this existed. Be right back. I'm heading out to Sam Goody's right now to pick this up.
No, you're going down to Vintage Vinyl in New
Vintage
Jersey.
Vinyl. You missed your cue. Jeez.
I'm trying not to beat it to death.
To death. I want that dead. Hard lard. Keep going.
Oh, no.
In an interview with sleazeRocks.com, bassist Mark Schenker claimed a lack of attention during the mastering process of the original album resulted in a final product that was too quiet and didn't compete volume-wise to other albums at the time. They aimed to fix that with this re-release. Mark performed with the band since their reunion in 2003 until their retirement in 2023. He did not play on the original album, but has previously played in Steve's side band, Funny Money, and was a longtime friend of the band. And got a little more, unless you want to take those last
Dave,
ones.
I would
Lisa?
like to start. I think we should start putting in this because, during the movie podcast, we always talk about the budget and then, worldwide gross.
Sure.
I think we should add that so we can start figuring out if these albums are fucking flops or if they were, cash cows. I'd be curious. Okay. Lisa,
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're going to find the album budget.
maybe Wikipedia. I don't know.
Hmm.
Lisa
Maybe.
could call one of the bandmates if anyone
I'll call 'em
says on speed dial. Hey, Tom, what was the budget and the return on that album?
So you're going to do that last one. And we got one last one from me. For 25 years, Steve Whiteman was also a singing teacher. One of his students was Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm.
Oh, cool. That's pretty interesting. Hey, you guys ever see that crazy guy on YouTube with the long hair that like makes his tongue in funny shapes when he sings? Steve Tamlin or Steve Tamplin?
No.
Ken Tamplin.
Ken Tamplin. Ken
Yeah, I've-
Tamplin, Dave.
How do I not know about
I've
this?
seen
Dude.
that guy.
Listen,
That-
Ken Tamplin. That's all I could say. This guy, man,
Terrible.
with his shirts and his hair and his tongue. He's amazing. Can't look away. Go check it out. Ken Tamplin.
That was the guy that all the controversy was about on YouTube a while back.
Oh, what did he do?
Oh.
What did he do?
They accused him of lip syncing performances, and I didn't want to dive into it because there's just too much drama for me to deal with. But
I mean, he's all
who
right.
knows?
He's all right. I don't think I would accuse him of lip syncing. I mean, it sounds like Ken Tamplin with his crazy tongue. No one else could sing it like that. Lisa, check out Ken
Okay.
Tamplin and give us some facts.
I will. I don't think maybe I'd recognize him if I saw him, but that doesn't ring a bell for me. So
Mm.
maybe that's a good thing. Okay, so it's 1988 when this album came out. The band actually formed more than a decade before this, and in my opinion, is still stuck there. In 1988, we had a lot going on, right? This was early enough in the glam era that there was still a lot of room to put out a few more albums within the genre, but it wasn't super early. It wasn't 1985. It was kind of, but they still had some time. They had a few albums before this that I don't think anyone would categorize as glam, right? You would just call them kind of rock and roll,
These guys
right?
were never glam.
Yeah. So, and when you say that, I
I
think
disagree.
really.
Oh, no, they're not glam. This isn't glam. This is different. This is like tough or something. It's
I
different.
think we should have a discussion about that because
Yeah.
if you look online and you research biggest glam bands of the 80s or whatever, this band is always mentioned.
They
But
barely
in
wear
my
any
head,
makeup.
yeah, in my head they weren't really that at all. They were just rock and roll.
Yeah, a lot of denim vests and no
Yeah.
makeup and bangs and jeans and yeah.
I don't know why they got thrown into that group, but
They were more
straightforward.
street than
Yeah.
they were more street than some of those other bands. But I mean, I'd still call them a glam band.
okay. Well, so they definitely had room for a few more albums before what we would call 1992, where the floor kind of fell out of the glam movement. In 88, we had Ellie Gunn's self-titled album, Poison, Open Up and Say Ah, Bon Jovi's New Jersey, a lot of big hitters at this time. We had Motley Crue, Girls, 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 and well, that was from the year before. So the albums from 87 were really kind of getting big in 88. So you had Girls, 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 and you had Faster Pussycat and Whitesnake, 87 and all of that.
Colt.
Yeah. They were really taking over the airwaves in 88, even though they were from the year before. So they were initially signed with Atlantic Records. Now Atlantic Records is a huge conglomerate as far as a record label is, right? They go back almost 80 years, I think, from now. Their catalog of artists is so dizzying. I barely could scroll through all of them.
Zeppelin.
On there. Yep, Zeppelin,
Wow.
Crosby, Stills and Nash, yes, Rolling Stones, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, Elastica, one of my favorites, Hootie and the Blowfish, INXS, Juliana Hatfield, Local Girl, who I love very much, Overkill, Mr. Big, Tough, and Shadows Fall, more local boys.
Mr. Big sucks.
Yeah. So the reason that I'm mentioning Mr. Big in there, and Tough for that matter, actually don't mind Tough, but you don't in that list that I just gave you, right? Plus a lot of stuff that they had that was kind of blues and I'll call it adult contemporary. You don't hear a lot of glam in there. You don't even hear a lot of rock in there, except maybe Rolling Stones and Zeppelin, which were way before them. So was this the right label for them?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, they never got the right push.
They never
Shoot.
got the right push. Yep,
Really led me
and
to
there's
know.
actually some stories that we'll talk about a little later about how that's a problem. But you would figure that Atlantic had a lot of money behind them, right? So this should have been a really good thing for them, and I don't think it ended up that way. Incidentally, a fire destroyed most of Atlantic's tape archive on February 8th, 1978. Did you know about this? What a
Mm-mm.
tragedy. It had been stored in a non-air-conditioned warehouse in Long Branch, New Jersey. And the building just went up in flames, and they lost a lot of masters and stuff that was in there. That's horrible.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Can you
fun
imagine?
fact. That building was actually just 2 blocks from Vintage Vinyl in New Jersey. It's a fucking lie. It's a
It was
fucking lie.
upstairs from Vintage Vinyl. No.
It's a fucking
no.
lie.
Yeah.
Oh,
So not a lot of stories about this band online about their how they formed and all of that kind of stuff. But it seems like the 3 guys in the band played together. Now, who was that? That was Ronnie and help me out with the 3 original guys. here,
Nobody
Dave.
knows. Nobody knows. It doesn't matter.
Ronnie, Brian, and Donnie, I think, were the 3.
Is that
Okay.
the fucking
Right.
New Kids on the Block?
Yeah. So they found Steve because he was dating the bass player's sister. and they said, hey, there's this guy and he can hit the high notes. And apparently back in the day, that was very hard to find, was a guy that could hit the high notes. And Dave can tell you that is still very hard to find
Sure
today.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rat was on Atlantic Records also.
Rat was,
Mm.
yeah. The band claimed that they had been kicked off tours. This is mostly Steve Whiteman, had been claimed that they had been kicked off tours for being better than the headliners. You
Yep.
heard that?
Triumph.
remember them-
Triumph. Yeah, the
I remember
Canadian
them
band
being
Triumph.
very good live. I remember this
Mhm.
band because, like, we had spoke about them, playing Narcissus and us going and seeing
Yeah.
them a lot. I always
Yeah.
remember them being an ass kicking band live. So when I picked this album up today to check it out, I don't know, it wasn't exactly how I remembered it.
So their first big, we'll call it an arena show or whatever, stadium show, was in 1980 with Van Halen.
Ooh,
One of
that's a good one.
Dave's
All right.
favorites. They toured with Aerosmith, Rat, Brittany Fox, Choir Boys, Tesla, Whitesnake, Warrant, and many, many more. Cold Chills, that song was used in the motion picture Wayne's World, which we
Mhm.
love. Midnight Dynamite was in Lethal Weapon, so they had some movie plays for their songs. The band took a hiatus in 1995 and then reformed in 2003. This is a similar time frame that a lot of bands kind of did that. As glam fell off the hills in 1992, 93, you see a lot of these bands fall apart. And then as glam kind of comes back to popularity, you see them build up again in 2000. So it's the same timeline that we keep seeing over and over
Sure.
again.
Mhm.
Yeah. They've had some health scares in the band. We'll talk about Chalifant in a little bit when he collapsed on stage. They played Monsters of Rock Cruise several times and drew huge crowds on those. Basically, everybody on the ship kind of going. When you go to Monsters of Rock, it's a lot of different bands playing in a lot of different venues all over the ship. And the report is that when Kix plays, everybody on the ship goes to watch them. So.
And then the ship is
Yeah.
dangerously
The
close
ship-
to capsizing.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're like floating city blocks. So
Yeah.
yeah. Their final concert was September 18th, 2023, which with most of their original lineup playing various songs on the set list. They played at the Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland, which of course was their home state and a place they played many, many times. Steve comments on their what you would call a retirement, and he said, this is a quote from him. He says, "If ever the world was shouting at a band to get the hell out, it's us." I announced last year that the band and to our agent, and at the end of 2023, I was done. My wife is retiring. I've been doing this since I was 13. I'm sick of all the travel, all the BS. The only thing I really enjoy is getting on stage. And to be honest, I'm not as good as I used to be, and I know that. And I don't want to go out sucking. I want to go out being pretty good, but age takes its toll.
Aw,
So
poor guy. He's sick of all the attention and traveling and playing shows. Try fucking painting apartments for the last 10 years, dickwad. Pretty sick of
fair
that myself.
decision, though. At least he didn't wait too long, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the individual guys. Steve, he started in a Led Zeppelin cover band, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. He formed the band called Funny Money with Jimmy Chocolate Chalfant. Can I not say chocolate every time we talk about him?
I really wish you
That is
wouldn't.
Awful, right?
Don't
So
say it.
awful.
Don't say it.
I got to know the story. I
I'll
didn't.
tell
I
you.
didn't find out the backstory.
This was
He
the
was-
only one I didn't find a backstory.
I know the story. He was a backdoor
Oh, you-
man. Everybody knows
Oh,
that.
no.
No. Okay.
Heyo.
It was
Yeah.
1988. I'm sure that's why.
So in 78, they were known as the Shoes, which is a terrible name. Do you like that name? With the Z?
No, I do not
Double
like
the
that
O,
name.
double the Z, double the flavor.
I do not like that name.
No, terrible.
It
Terrible.
was fine for 1979 or whatever.
Yeah. So in that band, the drummer, Donnie Spence, that was the drummer at the time, he would alternate with Steve Whiteman doing vocals, and they would switch between drums and vocals. And it was decided, since Whiteman could hit the higher notes, that he should stay as the lead singer, and ultimately it caused the drummer to leave the band. So, yeah. So you mentioned about Lizzie Hale being a student of Steve.
Yep.
So he teaches drums, vocals, guitar, and harmonica at the Maryland Institute of Music. Lizzie was one of his students, and Jordan White. And this institute, Maryland Institute of Music, they call it like the school that Kix built. I guess it's kind of like their school. So Jimmy and Brian are both instructors at the school, teaching everything from guitar to music theory. And his daughter Carly is also an instructor of vocals and piano there. So
I read that stuff and I went to their website, and they did not have Steve listed as an instructor. They did
anymore. So he's retired now.
they
Yeah.
did have Brian listed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't sure about all the
Mhm.
detail of that.
Yeah, it is true. He doesn't teach anymore. Actually, when he retired from the band, he kind of retired from everything along with his wife, and they don't work anymore. So,
Good for them.
but yeah, but that was kind of their thing, that school. So, and the school goes on without them. So,
Sure.
yep. He has a podcast called Stephen Rick's Podcast. It is billed as a pot-filled podcast about movies, music, sports, comedy, guns, and pot.
Maybe after this podcast, he'll probably do a fucking review show of our podcast and be like,
Yeah.
those guys suck.
Yeah, they do video and audio, and he for some reason looks like my grandpa now. I'm not really sure. There was a like his last show, he still looked like a rock and roller, but when you watch him on this podcast, he's deteriorated quite significantly. But
What's it called again?
it's called Steve and Rick's Podcast, and Rick is Riks. So, on that podcast, he tells some stories from back in the day, among other things. And one of the story was that he was doing a show with Billy Idol, and Billy Idol demanded that Steve dye his hair because he didn't want another blonde frontman on his tour. So he obviously said no, and he did a great George H.W. Bush impression. Not gonna do it, and yeah, it wouldn't be prudent. Yeah, really good.
Dude, Billy Idol still got like a fucking six-pack, man. The guy takes his
Right?
shirt off, he looks like
He-
25.
He looks
It's
amazing.
unreal.
Yeah.
He does.
Yep. He had told another story about Ronnie Youngkins, who relieved himself next to Donnie Purnell's on the tour bus and kind of peed all over his head when he was wasted. And at that time, they had to remove Jack Daniels from the bus and the riders, and they fired their sound man for providing it. So. Yep. He's also on Cameo. If you would like to get a greeting from him, you can do that. He is still with his wife of 41 years, who participates in his videos and interviews. And he's very active on social media, including a fan-facing official page where they sell merch and share lots of stuff about the band.
He's been married for 41 years.
41 years.
I think we just uncovered why he looks like a grandfather.
So, yep. Okay, so Ronnie, guitar player, grew up listening to country western music, started playing guitar at age 9. His quote from the beginning of the band is, "My ego at that time was like, we got to make it to the top. It's a mindset, a passion. We sacrificed everything, girlfriends, wives, personal lives." Oh, sheesh. His nickname 10 out of 10 is because he cranked the volume on his guitar and his amps as high as they would go. I hear, and so I read a description about how he looks, particularly now, maybe not so much back in the day, but people say that he looks like Steven Tyler. I didn't see it, but
Nor did I.
yeah. So, but that's
No,
the description.
I've seen recent interviews and I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
What always reminded me of Steven Tyler was Tom Kiefer from Cinderella.
Yeah,
He gave me
yeah.
the big Steve Tyler vibes.
So he speaks about the glam bands of the 80s, and he says, even though Kix was a product of that time, I was never a fan of that. I couldn't stand those other bands, the hair bands with the pointed guitars and all that stuff. We were lumped in with all of them, and we were 8, 9, 10 years older than all those guys. Fair comment, but, way to put down all the people that dragged you along the way.
But the funny thing is, they tried to produce this album like a fucking glam album, and it wasn't a glam album, and that's fucking why the whole thing is a big fat mess.
Yeah. He also commented on like when glam fell apart and grunge was kind of becoming mainstream. He said we just felt like there was a new party in town and we weren't invited, which is a good way to say it. The clubs were paying less money for bands like us, and it got to the point where we couldn't even support ourselves anymore. The business kicked us out. So yeah. Let's see. Beginning in 2020, he took a leave of absence from touring. And beginning in May 2021, Bob Paré, and I'm sorry if I butchered your last name, Paré, began performing live in his place. This was following a series of issues with the bands, including some no shows of his, going as far back as 2017 or even before that. Soon after, it was revealed that his absence was because he was placed under house arrest after repeatedly getting in trouble with the police, reportedly part of a series of issues he had with alcoholism. He had been clean and sober for 21 years and had relapsed, basically getting high on prescription drugs, which he used to treat his hepatitis C.
Mm.
Yeah. In 2023, he claimed he had 2 years of sobriety again. So I imagine after that run in with the house arrest and the police that he changed his tune. Steve actually says about Ronnie, he was being supervised in a halfway house for about a year. It got ugly there for a while, and we want to make that he's got his family life together, his own life together, before bringing him back into this temptation that's just around us all the time. So, fair enough. Um, so he plays with another band, but has shown interest in returning to Kix. He actually says that he hasn't been able to watch any videos of Kix performing without him, like with other players. It's too painful for him. He is still teaching, apparently, at the Maryland Institute of Music. There are no interviews with him after 2023 that I could find. So
Kind of dropped off the map there.
he did. Okay, Brian Damage Forsyth. This guy is so cool. How
So
cool is
cool.
this guy? Oh my
Love
God.
this guy. Love this
Yep.
guy.
Also has a country music background, listening to Johnny Cash as early as age 3. Started playing Dylan on guitar at age 8. He was already in cover bands in his teens, citing covers of Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, and ZZ Top. Apparently, he was seen in one of these bands by Ronnie and asked to join the original band, Shoes, at the time. He credits Mark Puma, their manager, with getting the band kind of on track for this album. So, Mark Puma, I guess, was added on to their team just before this album came out. And he said that Atlantic Records wasn't much help in promoting them, which we kind of talked about a minute ago. Basically, just putting out the record and the single. But when Mark came in, he had like a whole vision for the band, and he made sure that every single they put out had a video, be like ready to go right when it hit the radio, and kind of organized everything from a timing perspective. All of the things that Atlantic was not doing for them, and it was Puma that put them on the right path and kind of got them big.
Puma.
Puma.
It's a cool name. I like it.
It is a cool name.
What's up, Puma?
Yeah. One weird thing about the release of this album, at the end of the summer of the year that the album released, they were on tour with Tesla and Great White, and Atlantic informed them that the album was done, right? In other words, they weren't going to spend any more money on it, and it hadn't really gone that big at that point. So Great White had a manager at the time, Alan Niven, and he said, like, why isn't Don't Close Your Eyes a single? Like, why don't you release that one? And so the Great White's manager, actually went to Atlantic and talked them into releasing that song as a single. And I think if that hadn't happened, they probably would have just fizzled out, right? So
Yep.
right after then, they ended up on a world tour, went to Japan. When they arrived at the airport in Japan, it was like being the Beatles. So
Yeah. That all important power ballad. We talk about it all the
yeah,
time.
yep. So he speaks about how he's not a technical guitarist. He says, I should have paid more attention, not to the business part of it, but people just take things as they come. I don't try to look too far ahead, so when it came to recording, I did my part as the guitar player. I go in there, I get my songs, I play my parts, and I never paid attention to the technical stuff. I noticed as I get older, a lot of my friends in the business, they did pay attention to the technical stuff, and they've moved on, and I'm still just a guitar player. He explains that he really wants to, or wanted to, own his own studio, and he doesn't know if that's kind of he's kind of past that at this point because he never learned all that technical stuff back in the day.
I
So
really like the way he plays guitar. I like the way he played on
yeah,
this album. He's not your standard metal shredder. He's more of a, I mean, nothing like Joe Perry. I'm not going to say anything because he's not, but
yeah,
more cut from that cloth, if you
yeah,
will.
Yeah. Yeah. Blues rock.
Yeah.
yeah. In addition to Kix, he also is the guitarist of Rhino Bucket.
Mm,
Not one of my favorite bands,
never heard
but
of him.
another interesting name. Um, there was another guy in the band who was a surfer who wanted to call the band Rhino Chaser. And one of the other guitar players wanted to call it Bucket of Lard. Bucket of lard,
Bucket Lard,
Des.
Hard Lard. That was their number one hit.
Yeah. So they put the two together and they ended up with Rhino Bucket.
How
So
have we never heard Hard Lard before? Now it's so good. It's so
terrible.
good. Get in
Yeah.
contact with the show if you want to buy the name. It's been
Yeah.
copywritten. Hard Lard. Don't touch it.
Yep. After the 2020 Midnight Dynamite re-release, with the pandemic and all that, Brian explains that they didn't get to tour for that album, which they had actually planned to, right? They had planned to tour during the pandemic. It got canceled. Um, and he says in this day and age, it's not like it used to be with record sales. He says it's hard to tell if they're doing well or not. So this was during the pandemic. He didn't know if they were selling anything because he wasn't at a show to watch people's reaction or to see the merch sales or anything like that. So he didn't know if it was good or not. He's been sober for a long time. He used to paint billboards, like the large ones on the highway. He did that for many, many years. I have a weird connection with him that I didn't even realize. He has a cooking channel on YouTube.
Interesting.
I've been watching it for 5 years without knowing that that's who it was.
That is fucking awesome. He must look so rock and roll.
He actually does. He looks really cool. He looks punk rock. He still has the black hair and all that, but I had no clue that that's who it was. That's
That's
who I was
awesome.
watching. Yeah.
So plug it. What's it called? Do you know?
It's just under his name.
Okay.
It's like Brian Forsyth, and you can just see all the cooking videos. He does a
Cool.
lot of like I originally found him when I was trying to learn how to make bone broth during the pandemic, and so he's got a lot of stuff. Like
Did you
that.
guys ever watch Mario Batali back in the day?
No.
No.
Okay. Oh, there was an episode when he had this guest on, and the name was Priscilla. Check it out. Keep going.
Okay. He recently had a mini stroke from carbon monoxide poisoning in 2023. He said he realized something was wrong, but he wasn't sure what it was. So the carbon monoxide detector had gone off in his basement. And he had just gotten like a new hot water heater or something, obviously that was malfunctioning. And he got annoyed and he went downstairs with getting annoyed with the beeping, and he took it down and took the batteries out of it and put it in a drawer.
Not advisable.
Right. Yeah. And not realizing that it was doing what it was supposed to do. So basically what happened was he started, having some symptoms. His girlfriend had been on vacation and she came home and she was like, "What is wrong with you? I really think you need to go like get checked out." But he didn't. He just kind of tried to go on with life for a couple of days. And eventually he got scared when he picked up his guitar and couldn't play it anymore.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
yeah.
Dude, I mean, I don't want to be mean, but the fucking carbon monoxide
Yeah.
detector was going off.
It was, yeah.
It-
Yep.
it-
Yeah.
okay.
So
Fire
he went
alarm's
to
going off. What should we do?
yeah.
Open a window.
Open a
So
window.
he went to the hospital. They found out that he had a stroke. He had to do a lot of rehab to get back from that. They fixed the house and blah blah blah.
Wow.
His ex-girlfriend Janice Garza is a super cool person. We have a personal connection to her. She's a journalist and an author. She was back in the day a senior editor of Rip magazine.
Oh, cool.
Whose work has been internationally published. She wrote lots of articles about lots of different musicians, published all over the world. She also wrote a series of books about cats.
I love my cat.
Yeah. So he's very active on social media, posting obviously about his cooking quite a bit and his cats. And his current girlfriend, Shan Marie, is often featured on there as well. He has a website, brianforsyth.com. Looks maybe a little bit better than MySpace. Ironically, still links to his MySpace page. That's I think how long it's been since it was
Wow.
updated. Yeah, I think 2015 was the last update to it. So
Interesting.
yeah, Donnie
I like-
Purnell.
I like to take pictures of my cat and turn them into GIFs.
That's cute.
Nobody ever see but me.
You should publish them. Maybe
They're
you'd be
good.
famous.
They're good. I got one where
Yeah.
he's making this like scream face, and I wrote "fuck off," and it looks fucking awesome. All right, keep going.
Okay, Donnie Purnell hasn't been involved in the band since they first reunited. Steve Whiteman says Donnie is a very bitter person. He's not an easy person to work with. He has not missed working with him. I do miss him as a friend, though. That's what he says. Um, uh, so Brian
Is
actually.
your carbon monoxide detector
I
going
know,
off?
really. Brian actually said that I talked to Donnie 6 months before Steve did. He initially called me. I hadn't talked to him in 10 years. We talked about old times and it was cool. But when we started talking about putting the band back together, no one wanted Danny involved. So we went with Mark Schechner. Donnie hasn't spoken to any of us except for producer Taylor Rhodes, who he sent a scathing email to for his involvement in our new record, referring to the Rock Your Face Off comeback of 2014 album. He also has a website, also pretty bad design. Looks like it's maybe built in 1995. But his website is pushing a new album from 2023 of 15 songs. And he has links to his Spotify, Pandora, and Amazon Music. For this project, he is listed as Donnie Purnell, lead vocals, guitar, bass, harmonica, and keyboards. Doesn't seem to have any social media, so as far as I knew, he kind of faded away other than this one album from 2023.
Nice. You had mentioned that the guitar player like Johnny Cash, right?
Yes, he did.
Yes. So I
When
was
he was
watching.
3 or 4 years old, he like picked that up. So yeah.
So I was watching an episode of Columbo earlier, and Johnny Cash is the star of the show. He plays
Nice.
a rock star who is about to be outed for
Oh.
having sex with a minor.
Oh
So
no.
he gathers the minor, who is now a 17-year-old, and the woman, and is going to blow him out of the water. And he flies them in the plane. This is his wife and the girl. He flies them in his little Cessna, and when he gets up there high, he fucking jumps out with a parachute.
Oh,
Oh my
And he lets the
God.
plane crash, and then he parachutes to
No.
the crash site and lays there with a broken leg. And Columbo just has one more question before he blows Johnny Cash out of the water. Yeah, it's just fucking awesome. Go watch Columbo. What are you guys doing? It's a fucking good show.
Okay,
Okay.
Jimmy Chocolate Chalfant. That's the
You
last
said
time.
you weren't saying chocolate
That's
again.
the last time we're gonna say
Okay,
that.
okay.
Terrible. I have no idea where that name came from.
I
Could
already
not
told
find
you.
that. Yeah. So really what we're going to focus on here is
Yeah.
his health. So November 18th, 2022, he suffered a severe cardiac event while on stage at the Tally Ho Theater in Leesburg, Virginia. Drum tech Sam Stillwell and others assisted in attending to Jimmy. The band did not finish the performance. From March 2023, Matt Starr filled in for Chalfant in live performances and is currently on standby. This was in 2023 in case his health deteriorates.
yeah, we know Matt Starr. He plays with everybody.
That's
Played
right.
with Ace Frehley.
He did. Yeah.
Nice.
So he makes a lot of comments about what happened to him, basically. So before this, he had a heart attack. So this was a couple of years before, I believe, or 5 years before, something like that. He had 3 blocked arteries and had stents put in. They were able to get him to the cath lab, insert the stents, and he didn't have to do a bypass. But that's a pretty big procedure, having
Yeah.
3 stents put in.
There's
Yeah.
only one more you can
Yeah.
have, and you've gone for
There's
the
only
whole
one more. Yeah.
the full
Yeah.
Monty.
Yeah. He does eventually get the 4th one.
Of
but
course he
yeah.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second one, so in 2022, what we just talked about was not a heart attack, it was cardiac arrest. That means his heart actually stopped, right? He said he had just finished his drum solo. He stood up, and apparently he doesn't remember the rest of it, but he sat back down and someone told him that he just froze. And they thought that he was just kind of fooling around, like sitting, because he was sitting up straight. But when he didn't come back in for the end of the song, like start playing again, they figured out immediately that something was wrong. And thankfully, the guitar tech like jumped right in there and got me off the riser and started CPR on him and saved his life,
Holy
basically.
shit.
Yeah. Yep. One of the stents was blocked and needed to be replaced. That's what
Oh,
happened.
fucking stint, huh?
Yeah.
Can't rely on that stint.
Yeah.
They go bad too.
Yeah.
Guy
Yeah.
continue powering down fucking Wendy's Baconators after his fucking surgery.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that, it could be genetic, but yeah, it definitely happens.
Holy shit.
So when this happened, a lot of people posted good thoughts and prayers for him and pictures with him. So I started looking through the history of what happened, and I realized that of all the members of Kix, not just during this event, but going back through history, he has the most photos of like himself with fans that people have posted and said, "Hey, I met this guy, and he was super cool and nice, and he took pictures with everyone." So I think this is the personable member of the band, basically.
Awesome.
Um, he's somewhat active on social media. He actually posted something last week, but in general, maybe posts like once a month, sharing music that he likes from other artists, some things of merch from Kix and himself playing, both recent and back in the day. So that's it.
Dave, I remember you were talking about how that time frame, early 2000s, when a lot of these big bands had made the shift from the arenas into the clubs because that's pretty much all that was offered.
Sure.
It was an exciting time because I remember playing with a lot of these bands and being very excited to do it because it was that golden moment where, 2 years earlier, you're seeing Rat at a fucking Coliseum, and then your band's opening for him at a fucking,
Yeah.
a thousand
Sharkies
seater.
in Nashua.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing with Rat at the alternate route, maybe like 800 people there. It was funny because it was in my hometown for where I went to high school and stuff. And we go back there and I played it. It was sold out, Rat. And I remember all kids I went to fucking high school with and junior high coming up and being like, "Wow, are you famous?" Like, no, I live in Charlestown. fucking loser. But it fucking just, it's just cool to be able to actually share a stage with bands like that. And this is before they were completely dismantled and, different lineups and people couldn't sing. Like when I played with Rat, they were still fucking Rat. They were still good. Just couldn't sell more than 500 tickets. We played with Cinderella, same thing, original lineup. It was great. And Twisted Sister, Dee Snider, the biggest stick in the mud ever. But, and Dave, I know you've probably played with countless bands, probably not as close to the day because you're a little bit younger than I am.
Yeah, a
But
couple years later.
But I know you still have probably gone through the gambit of, ex giant bands, looking for local opening acts, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Any highlights you'd like to spout out that stand out to you?
LA Guns several times. Pretty Boy Floyd. Spread Eagle. Don't Touch the Randalls.
I like it. Good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I liked that time period because, meeting the rock stars back in the day when I was a teenager and all that was much more difficult, right? So in 2000, you could walk up to them like they were regular human beings and they were sitting in the club hanging out. It was a different world for me.
No, they were still dicks.
Yeah.
They were still dicks.
I don't know. I met a lot more of them.
Well, you're
at
also a
that
pretty
point,
girl,
so-
fucking
Oh,
dude.
Not anymore.
Remember we played with Rat. There was like this little shitty room downstairs. We were in it, and fucking I was Steve Pearcy being like, "Get those fucking guys out of the room. That's for us." And they had a big bus out back. So then we go outside. We're standing outside the bus, and he fucking says to Nikki, "Dude, don't stand so fucking close to the bus." Nick's like, "Why don't you shut your fucking mouth, loser?" Like these guys are just they were all still creeps back then. But whatever, it was fun. Still cool. Cinderella was very nice. So is that it? Are we all done?
Yeah, that's
We've
it.
done
Yeah,
it?
let's move on to
Some opening thoughts?
Opening
All
thoughts.
right. So I have very fond memories of this album, but I have not listened to it in decades. So the question is, did this album stand the test of time? Let's find out. Dave, how familiar are you with this album?
I have heard it before.
I won't quit.
Back in the 80s, I definitely heard the song Blow My Fuse on my local college radio station. Weekly shout out to 89.5 WSOU Pirate Radio.
Nice.
Yes. I did not get the full album until years later. This was the first one I got from Kix, and I liked it so much at the time, I had to go track down all of their other albums. I was also lucky enough a couple years ago to go see them live at the Wolf's Den at Mohegan Sun Casino. The show was spectacular. So I got a good feeling about their score this week from me.
My wife and I like to go see bands at Mohegan Sun Casino. What we do is she'll buy one ticket and we'll go. She'll go see the band and I'll waste $700 on slots. Lisa, How familiar were you with this?
Okay, so I hope that we are all still friends at the end of this podcast. I have never listened to this album before this podcast.
Hmm.
I did not own it back in the day. Obviously, I remember the big power ballad hit off of it. But when I hear that song and you say to me, "Hey, who played that song?" Probably couldn't tell you. Um, most of my friends love this band, think they're fantastic, and think I'm crazy for my opinion on them. Um, I'm so oblivious to this band. Like, I don't have any memory of them. Um, the only time I've seen them live a bit, but what would happen is I was seeing some other band and they happened to be like opening or whatever it was. And it's kind of like I saw them totally by accident. Seeing them around Boston, even seeing them in arena shows. And like when they were on stage, I would kind of go to the concession stand or like go on.
Oh no.
I do not know why I am not interested in this band when everybody else is. I can't figure it out. To me, they looked like a 70s band and it just never caught with me. So.
It was funny. So I had made a Fast Five because before I listened to the album again and watched some videos, because I did all that. I watched all the videos, tried to immerse myself back into the moment when I was into Kicks, right? So before I did all that, I was just looking back and, through my nostalgic glasses and my memory. And I was like, wow, man, this band was really street. They were kind of sleazy and cool. They weren't glam. They were rock. I'm like, I remembered it being like different and the sound being really tight and together, and the albums not being overly fucking like whacked out with effect and stuff. That's how I remembered it, right? So I went back and watched all the videos. I listened to the record, and before I had done that, I had done this Fast Five. It was going to be, was Kicks, underrated? Was their cool underrated? And I was going to do 5 bands, put them up against it. Kicks versus Poison, who was cooler? Vic's, Kicks versus, et cetera, et cetera. So I made the Fast Five. I listened to it. And I'm like, I can't use this. Like, I can't fucking use this. I'm like, because they're just not that cool. I'm like, there was one cool guy in the band with fucking killer hair and a Les Paul. That's what they had. And that's what I remembered. And his memory stood the test of time. But the rest of it, not the way I remembered it. Not the way I remembered it. So, okay. So you won't be getting that Fast Five tonight. But you will be getting a Fast Five tonight. Let's rate the singer. As always, it's 1 through 100, 25% on hair, 25% on style and stage presence, and 50% on vocal talent. I wrote this up in 2 seconds while the guys waited for me to start the show. So, Steve, he had the safe hair. He had a basic wardrobe. He had basic, strong 80s metal voice. And from what I can remember, he had solid stage presence. All just very kind of vanilla and basic for me. So I'm giving him a 65.9. He's a little better than average. Not as cool as I remember it. Dave.
Well, we got a 17.5 on hair. It was fine. It was not great, but he did keep it going right up until the end of the band. No baldies here. Style and stage presence for me gets the full 25. He runs around like a madman up on stage, only surpassed by somebody like Mick Jagger. He played blues harp, tambourine, occasional acoustic guitar, and also brings out fun surprises and props like the Kicks branded umbrella or the bucket that we think is water to dump on the crowd, but instead it's confetti.
No.
Ugh.
Yep.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah, so that's showbiz. You say, oh, that's cheesy. It's showbiz.
So cheesy.
He is also a great singer, killer high notes. I'm going to give him a 40 for vocal talent. However, watching the live footage towards the retirement, it did fall off a little bit. I think he made the wise choice. He was aware of the voice going downhill a little bit and made that choice to go out on top. Unlike other people like Kiss and Paul Stanley.
Stephen Piercy.
Steve gets an 82.5 from me.
Did you say 82.5?
Yes.
Wow.
What would you score Perry Farrell? Just because I'm curious.
He would be pretty low.
Oh my
Okay, he's
gosh.
100.
100.
All right. If I known Dave was going to say 89.999, I would have gone like 20. Lisa, what do
Well,
you got?
don't worry. I'm about to balance this out.
Okay, good.
This guy doesn't do it for me at all.
No.
I've seen a lot of like ratings of 80s frontmen, and for some reason, this guy is always on the list near the top. And
he rules.
he does not, I cannot figure out why people like him, right? His hair wasn't that great.
No.
He was blonde like a lot of the guys, but his blonde was washed out and not
Yeah.
unique. And the fringe that he had, the bangs,
Ugh.
were weirdly cut too far towards his ears and made him look just 2 steps away from Joe Elliott's mullet.
Horrifying.
Def Leppard, yeah. His stage clothes are boring, very dated, maybe too much from 1978. Plain blue jeans and peasant shirts with a vest. Hardly a glam metal god. He should have taken some style cues from Brian Forsyth, who always looked frickin' badass, and we should have been calling him the front man of the band because he's the only one that caught my eye on the stage. His stage show itself, I watched a lot of footage of it this week and tried to remember the shows that I went to. People were calling them energetic and professional and a lot of, great things. And a lot of my friends love them live. I don't see it. I wasn't drawn to watch him. I wasn't looking at him at all. I was looking at Brian Forsyth. Usually I was at the show to see another band. So, not even that. His voice, not so great for me. It's okay sometimes. He can hit some of the high notes. He has a metal scream and a gravelly delivery. When his voice goes soft, it's also not so great. There's nothing special about it. I often think that he's trying to sound like someone else
Yeah,
rather
Tom
than like,
Kiefer.
yeah, well, a few different people, right?
Yeah.
So I heard a few different people in his voice. I don't think he has his own song, his own sound. So, sorry, Steve, but I am giving you a 45.
Yeah, it sounds kind of the way you were describing it. It's just kind of like forgettable, like not bad, just kind of
Forgettable.
middle of the road,
Yeah.
vanilla. Like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. He's a rock and roll singer, but
And it was really hard to focus on him because Brian was so cool.
so cool. That poor guy should have been in a better band. I can
Yeah.
think of 1,000 bands that would have just been perfect for him. That guy would have been the perfect replacement. Like, fuck Gilby Clark. Put that dude in Guns N'
Yes,
Roses.
that would have been great. Oh,
Yeah, with his Les Paul and his fucking vest. All right, so Lisa, will you please add up the scores to tell us where does that land Steve Whitman? Whiteman?
Whiteman, isn't it?
Okay, Whiteman.
All right, on the Violent Vinyl frontman leaderboard, Steve Whiteman, frontman of Kix, joins us at number 13 with a total score of 64.47, which puts him right below Steve Sex Summers
Mm.
and right above Gary Sharon.
Oh shit. Oh,
Sorry,
shit.
Steve, you got robbed. I'm
Oh.
standing up for you.
Oh shit. Okay, so Steve is definitely better than Gary Sharon. Everybody's better than Gary Sharon's fine. This guy can sing. I mean, let's not bullshit ourselves. The guy's got a great voice, but I just don't like the flavor of him as
Yeah.
the front man of a band.
You're right.
And Steve Sex Summers. I mean, is he better? Lisa, is he better?
He's just so much cooler and eye-catching.
He is cooler and more eye-catching, even though he couldn't
Yeah.
sing his way out of a fucking soggy paper bag. This guy fucking can out-sing Steve Summers with half a vocal cord. No disrespect.
It's no good if I forget him, though. I can remember Steve Sex Summers perfectly.
As can I. Okay,
Yeah.
Steve Chocolate Summers. Okay, let's get into the tracks and our thoughts on these. So the first song was Red Light, Green Light, and I forgot that TNT was on the back of that, so I had made this into 2 songs when I wrote up the script. But Lisa corrected it, and we're
love
back
it.
on track. So Red Light, Green Light, TNT. So right away, this is the first time I'm hearing this in forever, and it's sobering. So right away, I like the vibe, but the production on this album is so muddy, and the lead vocal is totally lost in the mix and the effects, which is a shame because, I mean, we'll get to it. It's good. I like it, right? I like the vocals probably a little more than the lyrics, but it's fine. But you can't hear what he's saying. I can't make out a single word. It's got some really good backing vocals with some oohs and ahs, but again, I am struggling to hear them. It's something I caught, and I go back and listen again. But yeah, there are like people going in the back, but I could barely hear it. I thought the solo mixed with the harmonica was really cool. I mean, this is maybe not next level harmonica playing, but it's really good for an 80s hair metal band. I've heard it done so poorly by so many fucking hack, loser, poser frontmen in this era that couldn't play. Vince Neil, and fucking, so to hear it done like this, it was refreshing. I mean, this guy can fucking play harmonica, period. Overall, I like the song, but this one and a lot of this album, it was a little stiff and it needed more work to fill the song out, to fill the arrangement out, to give it all the bells and the whistles that make it a complete song. The bones were there, but it just wasn't done for me. Dave, what'd you think?
Well, we start with a fast drum beat. Sounds a little drum machine like. They did say when they demoed their songs, before recording the album, they would use drum machines to save some time. Not sure why they made the real drums on the record sound like that too. The drum beat is similar to Footloose by Kenny Loggins or Modern Love by David Bowie.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, pretty quickly, the vocal and guitars come in. Once the whole band is in, it's a great vibe and groove. Great move when they go back to the intro part and lead into a little break with the song title before the solos. Dueling harmonica and guitar solo is pretty different. I liked it. They also used the title to create an extra hook at the end. Great start to the album.
Nice. Lisa, what'd you think?
No.
It's your first time hearing Kix.
Yeah, and I don't think I ever heard this song before unless it was played live. Starts out like a bad musical number rejected from Rocky Horror.
Oh, no.
So I think 4 lines later, the actual song starts. Like, I don't know what is happening before that, but yeah. So then we get kind of a more classic 80s rock song. Nice screeching vocals, but still nothing unique for me. Okay guitar riffs. Very metal for a glam band and even very metal for a rock and roll band. So that's another thing I noticed is that I've never heard them called a metal band, but the guitar riffs made it sound like that to me. The lyrics are unbalanced. I have no idea what this title means. It's absolutely bizarre. There's a lot of rhymes, like a lot of rhymes in this song, and some of the rhymes don't actually rhyme, so it gets very hard on the ears. Big instrumental breakdown in the middle. You've got the harmonica over the guitars that I actually liked that. It kind of sounded like the harmonica and the guitars were having a conversation with each other. That was pretty cool. And we have a shredder, it seems, and a decent guitar player doing the solo. Song is for me very forgettable with an unnecessarily complex title. So
Nice. All right. Track number 2, Get It While It's Hot. I remembered the substance of this album being a little bit raunchier and sleazier and better, and not like in that, in that Get It While It's Hot. It's a little generic metal. A lot of this is, a lot of these stories and a lot of these lyrics just lack real world substance. And I kind of remembered Kix being a little bit like just better. Like just the songwriting, I thought it was just a little better and a little more street and a little bit more real world, real experience. And that's not what I'm getting here. So Get It While It's Hot. I love this song. I do. I fucking love it. It's full of killer guitars. Both the rhythm guitars and the lead guitars are fucking great in this song. Drums and bass, they're locked in. I mean, it's good. The bass player is really kind of non-existent. It doesn't really come through in the mix, but they're locked in. They're doing their thing. It's fine. The arrangement, way better in this song than the first song. Like this one was in the oven a little bit longer and it shows. Vocals and lyrics, I mean, I wrote here they're killer, but they're killer in that 80s hair metal style and not in the 80s hair metal style. Like even a guy like Tammy Down, I mean, you kind of feel like he's writing about his experiences in Los Angeles, as a young metal dude. And, he gets off the rails from time to time, but overall, I can kind of hear some real world experience in his vocals and his lyrics and kind of missing that here. Overall, though, fun song. I liked it. Dave.
We start with a synth loop and some backwards sound effects. Cool descending guitar line follows before the band kicks in. It's interesting that a band like this, that's generally basic roots rock, incorporated kind of a lot of modern elements in this album instead of keeping everything old school and more classic sounding. We'll get back to that later. Killer groove with some cowbell and keyboard. Great chorus. Another cool guitar bridge before the solo. And we got some classic licks mixed in with some dual guitar harmonies to keep it fresh. and some big background vocals.
Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
God.
But I mean, do you guys know the difference? Like, nowadays when I see an album and every song is written about a woman or a relationship or banging an easy woman or an easy woman wanting a hot dude, it's just like, for me, it's like, it's nothing. It's nothing. Lisa, talk about nothing.
Oh God. Don't like this 70s opening. That's 2 for 2 now. Why do they put this nonsense in front of what is actually like the real song, right? In front of the cowbell drum opening. Why would you do that? I'm already annoyed. Okay. If you ignore the beginning, we get a pretty decent rock song in the style of I hear AC/DC. I'm told I'm
Definitely.
wrong. Do
No,
you?
definitely.
Okay.
100%.
All right. I can see how some people would enjoy that. I am not those people. Super cheesy lyrics that feel like they just picked some words that rhyme and wrote a song around that. The chorus is too short. They had a chance to have a really strong hook in this chorus with a little more repetition. They didn't take that chance. Instead, they took 2 different lines, which is like while it's hot and I'm on fire, I think are the 2 lines. Each one of those could have been its own song with a hook, but putting them together just made it fall flat. Um, we get an okay bridge, basically with a glass breaking sound effect. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, before the guitar solo. Guitar solo is okay, some discordant notes which I like, but it's kind of all over the place. What is going on after the guitar solo with that synth? What is happening there? I don't know. And then the gang vocals come in, and which Dave just said, big background vocals too. And I'm saying lacking gang vocals. And
Oh,
I
no.
love some gang vocals. They needed a boost. A lame fade ending with the strains of what could be a really cool guitar lick kind of playing out in the background, but you can't hear it well enough. I'd rather listen to AC/DC, and that is saying a lot since I hate them.
Mm.
There is an official video for this one. I don't know if you saw it. There's too much headbanging in it, as if it's a metal as if it's a metal video, and not a glam song. We get some nice guitar shots, some flying hair. The singer looks exactly like Joe Elliott from Def Leppard in this video. Um, Brian looks ultra freaking cool. It's almost like he stumbled into somebody else's video by accident and isn't even in the band. That's how cool he looks in this video.
Fuck yeah.
But the video itself is super boring. It's just basically them playing. There's no story, no extra shots, no different locations, no partying, no girls, no audience, and nothing else. So
Yeah, just so boring.
boring.
I had actually made the note somewhere, I'm sure I'll get to it in this, where I say, if you turn the effect down 30% on this album on everything across the board, it would start to sound more like AC/DC. It would get
Yeah.
so much heavier and so much grittier and grimier and more present. And it would bring this entire thing up 10 levels and make it 50 times cooler and more enjoyable to listen to. That's just my opinion. Track number 3. No Ring Around the Rosie. I am not enjoying these titles. This is not a good title for a song. I don't understand it. This one definitely had that filler feel to me, but still a cool song with some cool arrangement ideas, I guess. It has some good guitar work. We get some weird accent keyboards here, right? Kind of reminiscent to the last one. I mean, it kind of work, I guess. It's not really my flavor. I didn't remember any of this being on this album. I just thought it watered down the overall rock and roll feel of the album. I didn't really enjoy it. More great harmonica. Great harmonica. I'm glad they leaned on it because it's probably the best part of the album, to be honest with you. This and some of the fun riffs that Damage gives you. He's got a couple of really iconic, solid guitar riffs on this album, and I mean, the rhythms to like the intros to a couple of these songs are just, they're really good. Unfortunately, they're produced like fucking dog shit. As for the lead vocals, it's fine. It's not very cool. I don't know. Take it or leave it. Dave, what you think?
Differently from many other bands, the bass player was the primary songwriter on this album. He is credited on every song. Steve, the singer, has a writing credit on a few of the tracks, and the rest are outside songwriters. Not big name songwriters or anything, but seemingly other musicians that they knew from the scene. So whatever that means.
Right.
This one opens with some guitar feedback, nice driving drum beat when the band kicks in. I have to wonder if this whole album would have worked better with a more classic drum sound. Um, Hot guitar solo here. The
Yep.
bridge has some guitar and harp soloing along with vocal sampling sound effects. I think that's some of what you were talking about.
Yeah, probably.
The song ends with some soloing over the riff and what I presume is keyboard horns.
Mm, mm. What is that?
So I don't. Did you like it or not like it? I couldn't tell.
The song itself?
Yeah.
I like the song.
All right.
Yeah, not a lot of big bridge build-ups, knocking choruses out of the park. Lisa, talk about it.
So decent opening here, and then we get the "We All Fall Down" lyric, which reminded me for a split second of Extreme.
I've got it in my notes. You'll
Did
hear
you?
it coming. Not in this song, but it's coming.
Yeah. Good guitar riffs here. The drums are so forward on this. Everything else almost gets washed out, including the vocals. I kind of like where this is going. It's getting almost like an early Faster Pussycat vibe for me in the very beginning. The lyrics are better than the first two songs, delivered perfectly. He has kind of a whiny quality to his voice, which I like. We all know I like that. There's a great gritty guitar solo, an interesting bridge that really breaks up the song and brings in that vocal scream that he has, which sounds really good on this. It's definitely more glam than the first two songs. There's a lyric at the end where he says like she ain't no angel, you can hear her moan, and it's like super cool.
Yep.
At this point, I think the song is over, but then we get a nice vocal synth sound with the harmonica solo and a guitar and a rehash of the chorus. I think they could have ended it with the harmonica and left off trying to do the Steven Tyler vocal magic at the play out because he's not Steven Tyler, so that didn't work. It really there was like a stick ending with a guitar and a drum like splash. Not I didn't really like that, and I usually like stick endings. I would have liked to. There's no video for this. I would have liked to see a video for this. I think that they could have had some really nice visual imagery about whoever Rosie was, and maybe like in the vein of Ragdoll or Cherry Pie, they could have had something big there, and they didn't do it. So
Yeah, they didn't do it
This-
because you couldn't remember this chorus to save your life.
yeah. Yeah, this was an okay song for me though. I liked it better than the first two. So
Okay. Track number 4, Don't Close Your Eyes. We all remember this one. Now, this one, didn't they kind of try to dress him up like a glam band? Did they put the singer in like a red leather outfit and shit?
yeah.
Okay, I thought so. So they
Yeah.
played dress up for this one. I don't know. I think the intro's okay. I will say this. On this one, I can finally hear the lead vocal, but it's only because there's not a ton of fucking music going on behind it. He nails this track as best he can. I think he delivers it for this one, which is why it was a big hit. I still think that less effects overall would have made the vocals more present. I think that was a huge problem on this album. They were just so mushy. And I always say, man, too much effect on the vocals on these big albums, these big metal albums. It really, for me, kind of just feels like rookie engineering. I mean, it's like you can't, because then you just can't make out what the dude is saying, and it just sucks. And I guess with these lyrics, maybe that's fine. As for the guitars, I love what these guys are doing on this track. They're showing a lot of restraint, but they're playing strong with what they're doing. And I think that maybe if you got too crazy with the whammy bars and a bunch of, nasty licks, it would have taken away from this track. It's a somber track, presumably about suicide, I'm guessing. And yeah, I mean, it's a good power ballad. I like it. And it wasn't about, she broke my heart. So yeah, pretty good. Dave.
This may be their most well-known song. The anti-suicide power ballad peaked at number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100. I actually used to play this one with my old cover band, the Sunset Strippers. Synth keyboards sound a little dated, but it worked for 1988. The song definitely has a punch when it kicks in, and a great guitar solo. I really like that one. Steve did an especially great job singing it. I read an article on metaledgemag.com. Steve had some comments about recording this song. And he said, we were so adamant about our demos by the time that we got into the studio. There wasn't a whole lot of work that needed to be done. I just had to remake the demo. Our preparation has always been very, very good. So by the time we hit the studio, it's just do it and get out. Co-producer Tom Werman had a unique way of recording vocals. He would have me sing the song 3 times all the way through, and then he would go back and he would just piece everything together. And I rarely had to go in and fix anything, but then I would go in and double the vocal track.
And put
Wow.
a shitload of reverb on it.
Yeah. That
And
makes
delay.
sense.
Holy shit. Okay, Lisa.
So this obviously is the hit the band is defined by, and really what gave them their notoriety and their ability to still be playing up to a couple of years ago, I guess, right? Um, that you can't deny that this is a popular song. It went to the top and it stayed there, and everybody remembers it. This is unfortunately one of my least favorite power ballads of the time, beating out only the really cringy ones like Mr. Big and things like that.
Mr. Big sucks.
Yeah, didn't like that at all. We get really strange synth opening, and like I don't know if it's low production quality or bad equipment, but even for 88, I think it didn't sound good. And you just said you
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a janky sound.
yeah, it really was. They needed better equipment, something, I don't know. The
Well,
song,
they should have used an actual piano
Yeah.
and not,
Yes, I think that
Yeah.
would have
not a
been
Casio keyboard.
yeah.
would have been advised. A nice rich piano sound would have really added to the somber mood of that song.
Yeah. This song feels to me much older than it actually is. Almost like I hear Led Zeppelin in it. And I've been, when I mentioned this to my best friend who loves this band, she absolutely admonished me and said, no, they sound like Rose Tattoo and AC/DC. They do not sound like Led Zeppelin. But I disagree. I hear some of that in here.
There's some Zeppelin in there.
Yeah.
Dude, Rose Tattoo is so much better than this. Dude, I couldn't even in the same breath.
Yeah. The voice, the vocal performance is pretty solid. It's less sweet than most power ballads, which is a good thing. It had an edge, like when you go back to like Skid Row's power ballads, um, it isn't not most of their ballads, especially on the Slave to the Grind album, they weren't like sweet love songs. They had an edge, and then this one did too. So that was good. I like the part when it comes in like hold on tight. I think it's like the bridge or right before the
Mhm.
guitar solo. Is that
Mhm,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the part I really like. Um and of course that is the pinnacle of the video when she loses consciousness, right? Um, the lyrics here are good, definitely something that I can relate to. So here's the thing. I like the dark, hopeless side of this song, but like it's almost a goth song until he says everything's gonna be all right, and then I'm like, oh, you kind of ruined the song. It should have like stayed a dark song, you know?
Oh yeah.
I
You're
don't know.
totally fucked.
Yeah, there's so much synth in this song, too much, and the synth play out at the end sounds extraordinarily dated, even more than the intro. The video was really overplayed at the time. I remember a confusing set of images of a girl contemplating suicide, played over the band playing in the rain, almost black and white. It's like kind of maybe sepia toned. Um, Maybe a bit of Marilyn Monroe influence on that last scene where she drops the telephone. I don't know, but not one of my favorite videos. So.
Fucking Rose Tattoo. We got to do one of those albums, man. That shit is so fucking rock and roll, man. Like it's just nothing glam hair metal about it. Like that little tiny singer would fucking punch this song into the ground and beat it to death. He would hate this song. He'd be like, "Fuck your stupid power ballad." Okay. Track number 5. She dropped me the bomb. I fucking love this song, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is about this song, but it hits me in the fucking spot where I just like this. Is how I like my fucking gay hair metal. This is how you follow up a power ballad on an album. But again, I can't help but to think this would feel way dirtier and way heavier with less effect. Like, just turn it down. Can't you hear you're ruining this album? I like the lyrics and the vocals on this track. I think the solo could have ripped a little harder on this one. This is where I kind of wanted, like, not shredding, but just a little more. Just fucking take the governor off. And I thought the outro was pretty good. Get the mix of lead and backing vocals. I mean, unfortunately, these are the tricks that really date a song and an album. Like the bands that avoided this back in the day probably listen back now and go, "Whew," might have been really in vogue back then, but when you listen back now, I don't know, man, it just sounds kind of cheap. And but overall, it's not saying much on the album, and it's a little generic, but it's a cool song, and I like it. I mean, yeah, it's good. Not reinventing the wheel, but Dave, what do you think?
After the somber mood of the last song, they bring us back up with this one. Good moving drum beat and guitar riff, classic kick sound. Very cool the way the band stops with the drum accent and just blasts that title at you. Great way to highlight the hook.
Oh yeah,
They also let you hang for just a second, waiting for that second verse. And they see you shiver with anticipation. Very good guitar solo. And in the second half, some positively huge sounding drum samples added in. Good move reusing that hook again at the end, too.
yeah, this is good. This is good. Lisa, did you like this one?
Not
Okay.
totally.
Yeah.
The drums again are brought to the front, kind of wiping out everything else. It's a very AC/DC sounding opening, and including his vocal quality, also very AC/DC sounding, which for me was disappointing after hearing how clear his voice was on the previous song, and that knowing that he could do that and he did have a better quality that he could have used. Lyrics are not cheesy, thankfully, or not simple, which is good. Filled with puns about explosions, sexually or otherwise. We have a nice bridge with the she's a flying angel, followed a little too closely with the key of the song. I usually like the bridges to break out of the song in some way, and this one needed a little more of a change up. Good guitar solo, it fits the song, but then we have like another guitar solo, almost like there was an interlude.
Yeah.
The second one was more interesting, I think, than the first one was for me. The first one like fit the song, and the second one was a better solo. So I actually had to go and watch some live footage to see who was playing which solo. And there is so much live footage of this song, even more recently. And I found out that Brian is the one who plays the interesting solo that I liked, and Ronnie plays the other one that fits the song, which I guess makes sense to me.
Hmm.
I'm actually, after watching so much live footage of this, it's shocking to me how good the band sounds. Even as recently as 2010, 2012, 2014, they sounded fantastic. He still had
Yep.
his voice. They could still play and rock. It was really good. It took a really long time for his voice to fall off. I think that was very recently. Footage in 2022 shows kind of his fall
Yeah,
off.
it was like the last year or two
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it was
So
just not
he
so good.
lasted a long time, though, to be fair.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yep,
remember watching a couple of those Monsters of Rock cruises that he had
yeah.
done in the beginning and thinking, wow, they still sound really good.
Still sound good, yeah. But really, the whole thing that I hear on this song is just the drums, and I think, oh, drums sound okay, but I think it's just because it's the only thing I can hear on this song.
Right. All right, so that's it. That ends side A. If you're listening to this show on vinyl, then flip it over. Okay. Going to give you a quick fast 5 today. It's going to be a fast 15, actually. So, just for fun, I was discussing with the guys, the guys and the gal, that maybe we should add another classification to the final score of each album. And that would be, would you ever go out of your way to listen to this album again all the way through, front to back, without skipping a track again? Is that something that you would go out of your way to do? So we're going to add that to the final scores. And to bring us up to speed, we're going to go through the top 15 because we've done 15 shows with this lineup. And we are going to just say yes or no, would we or wouldn't we? And we will be adding that to the scores. So, maybe if an album comes up and it's, we say, oh, it had that score, it went between these two albums, but was it listened to again? Yes or no? And there you go. So, Lisa, run us through the 15 and
Sure.
give us one, ask us, and, so on and so
Okay,
forth.
so let's go backwards. We have
Yes.
15 on the list, so let's start with number 15, which is Kix "Blow My Fuse."
No. Dave.
Yes.
Lisa.
No.
Okay, there you go.
I'm outvoted.
Number 14, Fastway's "Trick or Treat."
Yes. Dave.
Yep.
Lisa.
No.
Okay.
You were outvoted.
I'm outvoted. Okay, number 13, Kiss Revenge.
No. Dave.
I know how this one's going to go, but I'm still going to say yes.
No.
Okay, no. It's a triple no.
Okay, number 12, Extreme self-titled debut.
No. I would listen to that fucking Kiss album first, Dave.
I still probably would.
You would.
This is a hard one for me. I think I'm going to say yes for this one.
No, don't, please.
Yeah.
Okay, shit.
Nuno. I can't say no to Nuno.
Okay.
Okay, number 11, Pretty Boy Floyd's Leather Boys with Electric Toys.
Yes.
Fuck yes.
Definitely yes.
Fuck. Okay. See, Steve, so
Unanimous.
we're not fucking bad. We didn't do Pretty Boy Floyd dirty. We didn't.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Okay, number 10, Whitesnake's 1987.
Yes. That's the one with fucking all the hits. Yes.
Yep.
Dave. Okay,
Yep.
Lisa.
Yes.
Okay, that's a triple yes.
Yeah.
That should have like a shiny star next to it. Triple yes should be worth
Triple
more
yes.
than just a yes, right? Okay.
Okay, number 9, Aerosmith's Permanent Vacation.
Yes. Dave.
I would say yes.
No, for me.
Okay.
Okay, number 8, Wasp's self-titled debut album.
No. Dave.
Yes.
Yes.
Lisa. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Just barely. It's just barely a no for me.
Number 7, Alice Cooper's Trash.
Sure. That should be its own thing. Sure.
Sure.
Dave, go ahead.
I'd say yes. I'm saying yes to everything.
I'm gonna
Lisa.
say no for me on
Okay.
that one. Yeah. Number 6, Type O Negative's Bloody Kisses.
Unfortunately not. Just because it's not my flavor, not because it wasn't a great album. Dave.
Sorry, I'm going to go no on this one.
And for
Oh.
me, it is 100% yes.
Okay. There you go.
Number 5, Poison. Look what the cat dragged in.
Yes. Dave.
Yes for
Yeah,
me.
Yes, for me, 100%.
Okay.
Okay, number 4, Vain. No Respect.
Yes. Dave.
Triple yes, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Yeah.
1,000 times yes.
Those are all yeses. Keep going.
Number 3, 9 Inch Nails. Pretty Hate Machine.
Yeah, probably not. Dave.
Sorry, that's no for me.
It's a yes for me. Ah.
Okay.
Okay, number 2, Faster Pussycat's self-titled album.
All day, every day. Dave.
Yes for me.
Yes for me.
Okay.
And number 1, Skid Row's self-titled debut album.
All day,
100
every day.
All day, yep, 100%.
Awesome. I don't know if you remember, Lisa, but if you can remember which ones we all agreed on, maybe give it a little highlight.
Okay, we'll do
Okay,
that.
so there you go. That's your Fast 15. You're all up to date
And
on the.
to be fair, the album that we're doing right now, it's sitting at 15 because we haven't scored it yet, so
Right.
that's why it came out as 15. So
Okay. All right. Cool.
Hasn't been integrated into the list yet.
yeah, so we'll do that at the end.
Okay. Awesome. Number 6, Cold Blood, Piece of the Pie. Is that right? Is that right? No.
Number 6 is Cold Blood. Number 7 is Piece of the Pie.
You hate these song titles, Des. Something's going on.
I thought we fixed that on the script.
You did, but I didn't fix it in my notes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So track 6, Cold Blood. This one is one of my favorite songs on the album. But unfortunately, between the delay and the panning of the effect on the delay during the guitar intro, it almost throws this guitar out of time when you're listening to it on headphones. I was like, how did nobody notice what's going on here? It's a fucking shit show. And it's one of my favorite guitar riffs from this era. With less effect, this is a way better riff and a way better song. I love the vocals and the lyrics. We get a really catchy arrangement here with a super catchy chorus. And finally, this is a killer rock and roll guitar solo. So yeah, I love this one. This might be my favorite song on the album. Dave.
I have the same note. The reverb that they selected for the guitar to begin this song kind of gets in the way and interrupts the groove.
Yes.
Verse is okay. Lyrics are pretty standard 80s rock, but killer chorus. It is so good. I also hear Tom Werman's famous shakers.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. The middle breakdown has a cool riff and some talk box effect accent and another great guitar solo.
Yeah. Lisa, I am very curious if you heard the magic here.
Well, I actually have a memory of this one. I'm not sure if it's from back in the day or if it's from hearing so many cover bands play this song. Catchy opening, nice guitar riff. I like the vocals, even though he says baby, baby, baby. Super catchy chorus, very bright and sunny song, despite kind of the darker guitar riffs running underneath it. Production is super muddy. There's always something on top while everything else is indiscernible, which I didn't like. On this song, it seems to be the guitars coming to the front, which is better than having the drums to the front. So there's that. Lots of cheesy rhyming like teasin' and freezing, which don't really rhyme, but they make it rhyme. Nice bridge on this one that actually brings the key down and changes the tempo. Finally, I could have done without the moaning underneath it though.
Sure.
Guitar solo is dirty and grimy in a great way. We have a nice metal scream and maybe a second bridge, starting with "You Make Me So Hot," I think, which should be awful, but he actually delivered it really awesome. It's a fun song. I see why it was a single. I see why it's a classic to be played. There is a video for this one. Finally, a livelier video where they're actually playing to a real audience and it isn't just them. Um, Performance is a little more dynamic because there's other people there. We get some groupies. Brian, of course, is looking fantastic. The rest of them look like they just walked in off the street. I think one of them was even wearing like running shoes. It's like, oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah, we get some shirtless shots of Steve with some red suspenders. There's a split second where he actually looks a little bit like Janie Lane,
mm.
which is interesting. He's crawling around on the floor. It's definitely a better video than either of the other two so far on the album. So
You know,
yeah,
the,
there's a ton of live footage of this. Also, of course, they play this all the time, including a great one in Pittsburgh in '89 and another in 2010 at the Sunset Strip Music Festival.
oh, cool. I'll have to look for those. Um, the vocals on this one, you were talking about the rhyming, and specifically that, baby, baby. And then what I loved about it so much was the way he held that same key through the second half of the rhyme, It was
Mm.
just go, baby, baby, driving me crazy. It's just good. I don't know. I liked all the timing of his vocals on this song in particular. I wish he had sung the rest of the album like this. This one actually he kind of has an identity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I really
I
like
get
this.
it. I get why people love this one.
Yeah.
This one makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's a fucking great song. Unlike the next song, number 7, Piece of Shit. Wait, Piece of the Shit? No, Piece of the Pie. This is like some reject extreme garbage song. I fucking hate this song. The lyrics and the vocals are just fucking goofy. They suck. This is the style of 80s hair metal that I fucking hate. This is like what killed it. I'm not a fan of the guitar sound here. I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody else came in and did these guitars with a different amp, but it is so thin and so tinny and so shitty. Oh, this gave me the extreme feels, and I did not like it. Dave.
This one's just okay. The riff actually reminded me a little bit of LA Guns,
Ooh.
but I'm also hearing some Aerosmith influence in here.
Hmm.
When I saw them play at the casino during setup time, I heard Brian playing Toys in the Attic to sound check his guitar.
Cool.
The song's okay. It doesn't get me dancing like some of the other ones.
The other ones get you dancing.
Yes.
Sorry.
When I've
Wow.
had a couple martinis, sure.
Awesome. Lisa, talk
So
about this gem.
when I saw the name, I immediately confused it with Motley Crue, but then I realized that's slice of your pie, not piece of the pie. So
Mm.
yeah, that would be a year later. Um, we get some panning with the guitars that was very confusing. It's something that sounds suspiciously like Poison. I'm not sure. I can't put my finger on it. The lyrics, if you read them, are like sexy and hot. The delivery is pretty good. It remains that way. It doesn't turn cringy. Chorus is not very catchy. I don't see a hook, but I do like kind of the bluesy delivery of the verses and the different tones we get in his voice on this one. We get both the metal screech and the clear, like glam tones in his voice. There's a nice gang vocal in the chorus. I hear some female voices in there. I couldn't find any mention of female singers on the album, but I feel like there was some there. Interesting guitar solo, nice guitar isolation. But then it's just basically some single notes kind of bent. That's what the solo kind of consists of, not very creative. Halfway through this, I got bored and lost and forgot I was even listening to it. There's no video, almost no live footage of this song that I could find. So, yeah, there it is.
That sucks. Track number 8, Boomerang. Talking about songs that suck ass. This is totally forgettable with a fucking horrible chorus. Like, this is like, if you want to know how not to write a chorus, listen to Boomerang, because this is it. The saving grace is the harmonica and the guitar solo. Lots of fun. Again, great harmonica and some great guitars on this. But overall, I do not care for this song with this one word chorus. That's total shit. Dave.
High energy out of the gate with this one. Bass showcase. There's lots of room in the verse for the bassist to shine. Hearing some Zeppelin influence with the vocal lines and the guitar slides. Once again, we have a double hook. They use the title differently to add a catchy second part with the boom, 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 boomerang. And they reused that second one at the end, but it would have been nice if they had brought back the first one and sort of done a combination of both of those at the end of the song. I like the song.
Lisa, did you get this chorus idea?
Oh, geez. Boom, boom, boom,
Boom, boom, boom.
We have a harmonica opening that now is starting to feel overused on this album. I'm remembering the Steven Tyler skit on Two and a Half Men that we are just tolerating the harmonica at this point. The bass is brought to the front on this song, and it not just because he's featured, obviously, but the track is brought to the front as well, so it's very noticeable. Not even a minute into the song, we get a change in the tempo and the feel of the song, very like Zeppelin-esque for the arrangement, very artsy and not structured. Usually for me, that's not a bad thing, but I've had enough Zeppelin, and it's starting to sound a little jam band to me. At first, the chorus is a little bit catchy, and then I realize he's just going to say that over and over and over
Oh.
again, and it's very pretentious and annoying. Um, we get a nice guitar solo in the middle. I really like it. It fits the dreamy song, and I really wish that they fit this a little better into the song. We get some isolated, I don't know the word for this, in the drums. It's not a cowbell, it's a block. Is that what it is? When they hit a block?
I wasn't listening
Like a
closely
wooden
enough.
block?
You can have a wood block,
I
but it
think that's what
sounded
it
like
was.
a cowbell to me.
They
I don't
lost
think
me
it
at
was.
Boomerang.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we're back into Zeppelin mode. The lyrics are, I think, about a sexy girl, but I'm confused because everything's meandering. I actually had to go listen again because I got so lost, and I was like, "Where is like I can't figure this out." But hey, it made me re-listen it. So how bad can that be? But yeah, jam band music is not for me. So
Dude, these stories go nowhere. They have no depth. There's
yeah.
no depth to this. If this was a novel, eh, no. Okay? The guy had nothing to say. Track number 9. This should have been the final song on the album. It should have been number 10, but it's number 9. It's called Blow My Fuse. This is the one everyone knows. I'm not gonna feed it to you because you know how the song goes. This song is so fucking good. This is the best song on the album. This is it. I have always loved this simple intro guitar riff. It is such a killer riff. Best vocals on the album, best lyrics on the album. This is a true iconic 80s metal classic that I think, aside from some of the production, aged pretty fucking well. Again, this is one of those situations where I'm glad we didn't get some weird whammy bar happy shredding CC DeVille solo. I think this guy adds the class that makes this one stand out. Is just a really great metal song. Dave.
Here's the song that hooked me into this band.
Yeah, me too.
Still learning, trying to learn how to play this one on guitar. Like most of the album, the guitar parts are not super complicated, but they are imaginative. And whether both guitars are playing the same part or complementary parts, they work great together. Huge groove, huge backup vocals. Love this one.
Lisa, did you love it?
Maybe.
Oh.
We have that panning guitar opening, a nice riff, nice opening vocals. The lyrics, while they're really simple, in a cheesy 80s kind of way. It makes the song feel dated. I almost feel like I'm listening to a very early 80s song by AC/DC rather than a song from 88. It struck me how little, um, I don't want to say music, because there was definitely like a little bit of guitar and a little bit of drums, but it feels like there was almost some a cappella singing in this song. It felt the music felt very empty through some of it. Um, we do get some nice licks behind the chorus and a pretty good guitar solo, but I still can't get past the lyrics. They're just too simple. And I feel like with this title, and the beginning of the chorus, this could have been a like super huge arena song. And now that's coming out of my mouth, and I know that everybody else thinks this is a super huge
It
arena song.
it was.
Yeah,
It
and
was.
and I think it could have been better. This one has a video. That's 4 official videos for this album, which is a lot. Finally, we get some street scenes outside of like strip clubs. I love this kind of footage when we kind of just watch them walk around a city. It seems to feature Ronnie more than it does Brian, which I'm a little sad about, but at least we get more than just the singer, which was kind of what the other videos were focused on. But really, all the videos look kind of similar, and there's nothing that makes any of them stand out. And back in the day, to rule, the music scene back then, you had to own MTV, and they didn't do it. So,
Yeah, it's funny. So Lisa with a heavy heart and kind of like she
yeah,
says like she doesn't want to insult them.
so
She's like, it
sorry.
kind of reminded me of like an early AC/DC. Like that's a fucking bad thing. Like
And
they were like,
yeah,
thank you, that's so awesome.
and that's probably what they wanted, and that's why everyone else loves them, but it's why it's not for
Holy
me.
shit.
So,
So is your hate of AC/DC like genetic or have you been
I
tested? Like
know.
what's going on?
My brother loved AC/DC, so it
Fuck
can't be
AC,
genetic.
fucking AC Back in Black. The not getting 100 watts on the old show was a fucking. Oh, how dare you guys? Hope you know who you are. Dave, did you give it 100?
I don't remember.
No,
I,
not.
I think it was close, but I don't think I gave
Oh,
it a full
shit.
100.
Dave,
I think I
Dave,
gave it like 98 or something.
Dave just pleaded the fifth. He's like, I don't remember. Okay. Track number 10, Dirty Boys, Joe Dirty Boys. Not to beat a dead horse, but I'm fucking gonna. The amount of effects on this track is criminal. It's criminal. Like, how dare you? It totally steals the presence and the punch this track needed to rock to its potential. And if you write and record music, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anything you scale down the effect on is just going to be in your face. You're going to read it better, and it's just going to sound better. This one feels like a filler and maybe would have been better in the number 8 position with Blow My Fuse capping off the album, but that's just my opinion. But overall, these guys can play their instruments, so the track musically is solid, but for me, not a good ending track when you have Blow My Fuse right above it. Just either trim it or bump it up. Dave, what'd you think?
Well, finishing the album strong and fast with this one, fast guitar riffs and slide solos. I think it's a good album track. Definitely not hit song material, but a solid rocker. But I do agree with you. It might not be the best choice for the final song on the album.
Lisa, did you burn the CD for your car?
Oh, I wish. I never bought it, so I didn't have to burn it. Um, we have a nice guitar riff in the beginning, but again, we're panning it with all sorts of stupid effects, which they keep doing, and I absolutely hate. The lyrics are maybe sexy, maybe dirty, maybe gritty, but really empty. So, we came here to make some noise. Hey, better watch these dirty boys. Like, really? That's
Dude,
the best you can do?
it's so bad. It's so
Yeah.
bad.
There is an interesting tempo change in the verses where it almost like double times, and some nice guitar work here, through the entire song, not just the solo. Um, I like the guitar string drags before the chorus. I don't know what to call that, string drags. I guess that is kind of the bridge, although there really isn't much of a bridge in this song. We have a fast and dirty guitar solo. Seems to fit the song. I heard a little bit of Doors chord progressions, or maybe even some old Aerosmith. I guess I found a few nice things in this song, like the tempo changes, but again, through this song, I found my mind wandering, and I did have to keep going back and resetting the song because I wasn't actually listening to it. I was just getting bored. I can't place why. Again, it's like this whole band. I can't place why I don't really enjoy it.
It's because it's over simple. There's no substance here. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, okay, so that's it. We've broken down the album. I mean, I when I think about great lyrics on an album, I think about albums like Dogs D'Amour, Inside the Dynamite Jet Salon. Like every song could have like a little black and white western to it, or you know, fucking nothing shocking, or even like Appetite for Destruction. Perfect example. Listen to those songs. They're little stories. They're so deep. There's so much substance. It's so well written vocally and lyrically. This has none of that. So that's where I'm coming from. Let's replace some members and we will pick some songs that we love and hate. Then we will score this and we will bank it forever. My favorite song, Blow My Fuse. No surprise there. Song I would cut, Boomerang or Piece of Shit. You take your pick. It doesn't really matter. Dave, go ahead.
Favorite track, Blow My Fuse, and I would cut Piece of the Pie.
Piece of the Pie. Lisa, how'd you see it?
Favorite track is Cold Blood.
Mm.
I can see why they chose it as a single. I'm actually sad. I would have liked to pick No Ring Around Rosie if they did it a little better. I think that would have been a good, better song for me. Piece of the Pie is my cut song. It was boring and droned on.
All right, so Piece of Shit was the loser.
Yeah.
Pizza de Pie.
Piece of the shit. So let's replace a member. I would remove Ryan Younkins on guitar and I would replace him with one Gilby Clark. I think that would have been a nice replacement. Would have looked very cool on the other side of the stage.
They needed another cool guitarist. They really did.
They
Yeah.
really did. And then put Kelly Nichols on bass and we're getting there. Dave, what'd you do?
I would sub in Steven Adler on drums.
Oh, I like that
Give
too.
maybe a little more of a classic tone to the drums instead of all that drum machine bullshit. And I think he'd fit right in.
Every band we do, you guys try to rebuild Guns N' Roses. It never fails. Every time.
What
Oh,
can I tell you?
We've got Adler, Gilby Clark, and Lisa. How would you reform this gem of a band?
Oh, I am sorry, Steve Whiteman. I think they needed a singer with more dynamic vocal range and a better stage presence. I am going really weird on this one, and I'm replacing him with Janie Lane from Warrant.
Sure,
Ew.
sure, dude. Janie Lane. Listen,
God.
not a Warrant fan over here, right? Not a Warrant fan, but as a guy who goes back and listens to these things, that guy could sing, man. He had a pretty good
He
voice.
definitely could sing.
You listen to Uncle Tom's
Yep.
Cabin, and that's a pretty
Really
fucking
good.
impressive vocal on that
Yep.
song. Okay, let's score this sucker. Wasn't as good as I remembered it, but it's still pretty good. Highs were really, really high, and that saves this album from getting a super low score for me. So for me, it's pushing. I had 68.9 written down here, but I'm going to come down a little bit. I think we talked it down to a 63.4. That's my score. 63.4. Dave.
Okay. Well, as we head into March, I wanted to plug a few upcoming gigs.
Oh, please do.
I will be playing guitar with Gypsy Freaks Friday, March 21st at Kodo in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Awesome
Show
club.
time about 9 p.m. Yeah, it's a good place. And we'll be on the next night, Saturday, March 22nd, on early for a benefit show, TJ Callahan's in Tewksbury, Massachusetts.
Ooh.
4 great bands on that show. Music starts at 2 p.m. You can get all the details at gypsyfreaks.com. That's gypsy with a Z, GYPZY, freaks.com.
All right. They have t-shirts too, right?
There are t-shirts for sale. There's a link from the website.
All right. Go to the website, get yourself a Gypsy Freaks t-shirt immediately because they're cool.
Kix is one of rock's most underrated bands. They achieved most of their notoriety almost entirely from playing in every town, everywhere, and going to the next town and doing it again. They put on a killer live show and have some truly great songs, but all their stuff rocks. I wonder if the production of the album had been less 80s and dated, it would have worked out better, or if that was part of the charm of the album. Either way, I still love it. My score is 87.9.
Ooh.
Wow.
Lisa.
So when this album, I was playing it on Spotify when it ended. The next song that came on was Skid Row's Rattlesnake Shake.
Mm.
And I was so relieved. I was like, ah. I have no idea why this band is such a blank for me, why I get so bored, and why everyone else thinks that they're fantastic. I have no idea. I'm never ever going to listen to this again, not even the hits, unless I have to listen to it when I'm seeing a cover band. Um, Even after this listen, when I was trying to pick a favorite, least favorite song, I had to go back and re listen because I had already forgotten what I had just listened to. I'm simply not the audience for this album. Generic rock that throws back to the 70s and has too many influences from other bands like Zeppelin and Aerosmith without having their own identity. It's not for me, and it never was. I don't think they were underrated. I think the rating was deserved. I'm giving them a 45, same as their frontman.
Oh,
Mediocre.
nice.
Boo.
Nice. I think everything you said is true. Yeah, I remembered it way better than it was. I think most people, if they went back and revisit it, would be like, I remembered it better. Lisa, please add the scores up and tell us where it lands on the Violent Vinyl charts.
Okay, on the Violent Vinyl chart, Kicks Blow My Fuse from 1988 winds up at number 12 with a total score of 65.43. Right below Pretty Boy Floyd's Leather Boys with Electric Toys, and right above Extreme's Extreme. And as we said in the Fast Five, this was a no re listen based on our vote.
Isn't that exactly where the dude landed on the frontman leaderboard too, right between those two singers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So there it is. Perfect.
yep.
Okay. So I have the next pick. It's funny. So I was going to pick the Warrant Cherry Pie album because I remembered it being
Ooh.
a good album, but then I went back and listened and there were only a couple of good songs and there's no fucking way I was going to make everybody listen to that for 2 weeks. Then I thought maybe we'd do Danzig, the original Danzig album. Great album and it's coming. But I did not pick either of those. I picked an album that I think is the most underrated sleaze metal album of all time. I listened to it before I picked it again today. It is, the production is magical. The songs are magical. Everything is magical. So your homework for the next 2 weeks will be to listen to Wake Me When It's Over by Faster Pussycat, possibly the
Nice.
greatest hair metal album of all times.
Great.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a good
good
album.
one.
It's a good
Yeah.
one. I made Delyn, my wife, listen to it today. I said, let me just take you through each song, just the first 3 seconds. So I skip. She knew every word to every single song. She's like, I remember every single song. I'm like, it's a fucking amazing album.
And Dylan and I have the same taste, so we'll be fine, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Wait till you hear these vocals. You can hear every fucking word. So there you go. Hey, did you ever see that movie? We will be reviewing the 2006 horror movie Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I've never heard of it. But
I've never
Tony-
heard of that either.
Yeah, well, it's because, our horror host, Tony, has seen every horror movie ever and
Oh,
likes to get a little
fabulous.
tricky from time to time. So we'll be watching that. Until next time, take those albums out of the sleeve and let the music breathe. See you next time.